Pittsburgh's oldest schools.
We are not quite done as of yet, Tanya. Our temperatures will keep dropping as we work into the Wednesday night. And wait until you see how low we'll get for Thursday morning. We've got the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And the latest on the 5G delay at airports.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Renovations at the Pittsburgh Community Middle School get the green light from voters. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, the votes are in for USD 250's $16.5 million school bond. The 2022 bond passed 912 to 222. That's an 81% approval. The bond will fund renovations and improvements to the Pittsburgh Middle School and will continue the current mill levy through the year 2045. Tuesday's results will be certified and made official by the County Board of Canvassers next Tuesday at the commission meeting. The process of renovating the Pittsburgh Community Middle School begins today. Well, winter is here again. At least the cold temps are. Michael Hayslip joins us with a first look at the forecast.
And Tanya, it's one of those days where not only has our temperature decreased, but we've seen that wind shift on us. And now we're working in at 20 to 25 miles per hour. Ooh. It has been nonstop. Temperatures have dropped below the freezing point consistently through the central and northern portion of the 4 states. Some way, somehow, still hanging on to mid-30s down to the south. But I want to point out that when we started the KOAM morning news, those temperatures were about at 50 degrees. And that was 2.5 hours before sunrise. So it gives you an idea about how infiltrating this cold front has been. And there we are with our winds, 25 miles per hour in Independence and 21 sustained winds at Joplin Regional Airport. Combine that with our cloud cover, but I do want to take this off and say we've been lucky so far. We've seen some light flurries. We haven't seen a whole lot of freezing drizzle. Our rain's been relatively negligible, so that's not a bad thing. What is going to be a tough thing to bear is our overnight lows, as we're going to drop down all the way into the teens, if not single digits, and definitely we're going to have negative wind chills when we wake up tomorrow morning. Tanya, just real fast, I want to revert back to the radar here and bring up an interesting point and something that technology is going to help us out with, because you get to this time of year and you go, well, wait a second, we should see snow and we should see some freezing rain. That's actually when you bring out your boots on the ground, and when we come back, I'm going to illustrate how exactly you jockey back and forth between what your radar sees and what you actually see when you're out and about.
All right, that should be interesting. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, major airports are preparing for the possibility of canceled flights because of new 5G wireless technology rolling out today. AT&T and Verizon has agreed to suspend the service around many airports, but the FAA says some airplanes may still not be able to fly in certain weather conditions. Chris Van Cleve has the latest.
As AT&T and Verizon are launching their new ultra-fast 5G wireless service nationwide, airlines are bracing for travel headaches.
We're going to see some disruptions. There's no question about it.
Captain Joseph DePete is the president of the Airline Pilots Association.
We want to be leaders in the world in terms of 5G, but we don't want to do it at the expense of aviation safety.
While the FCC says 5G is safe, the FAA is concerned about interference with systems that help pilots land in low visibility and bad weather, prompting a host of flight restrictions.
If there's cloud cover, if there's rain, you can't use that equipment. You can't land airports at Chicago O'Hare, at Atlanta, at Detroit. This cannot be the outcome.
Airlines warned as many as 1,100 passenger and cargo flights a day would be delayed, diverted, or canceled. So Tuesday, the wireless companies agreed to 2-mile buffer zones around many of the nation's busiest airports. The FAA says that will reduce the worst disruptions, but it has approved just 45% of airliners to operate in all weather conditions where 5G is active. Airline industry analyst Henry Hartevelt.
This could have a disproportionate effect on people who live in mid-sized and smaller towns where they're dependent on smaller airplanes that are not on the approved list.
Even something as benign as fog at a major U.S. airport could cause lengthy delays to ripple across the country. Already, some international airlines have canceled flights to the United States. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Denver.
The nation's airports say many cargo shipments have already been impacted. Well, check your GPS. It could be a rocky road ahead. Wallet Hub is out with its list of best and worst states to drive in. It's a green light in Iowa, the #1 place to drive. Oklahoma, Kansas, and North Carolina followed. On the flip side, Hawaii was the worst state. The site weighed factors like traffic congestion and gas prices, even number of car washes per capita. By the way, Missouri was 42. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, a home fit for a princess goes up for auction in Italy. We take you inside. And later, we're making a French onion soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. A home fit for a princess is on the market in Italy. The 16th century estate, known as the Villa Aurora, is among the most expensive homes for sale in the world, with a valuation of more than $500 million. But it failed to sell at auction yesterday. The home comes with rare masterpieces from the art world and so many rooms that the current owner doesn't even bother to count them. Chris Livesay got a tour of the home and met the American-born princess who's ready to move out.
Any Rome villa is bound to cost a princely sum.
We're in the Aurora room.
But the 16th century Villa Aurora comes with its own princess.
There are 10 secret messages in each of these alcoves.
And none are more colorful than Her Serene Highness, the Principessa Rita Boncompagni Ludovisi.
One of the people from the Louvre was here, and she said, "We have one of these at the Louvre, but this is in much better shape."
You might know her better as Rita Jenrette. In 1980, this Texas girl was married to South Carolina Congressman John Jenrette when he was convicted of fraud. The next year, as her marriage was crumbling, she threw gasoline on the fiery scandal and posed for Playboy. She eventually found her footing in Manhattan real estate, helping Donald Trump broker his purchase of the General Motors building in 1998. That's the period when she met her second husband, a direct descendant of Pope Gregory XIII, Prince Niccolò Boncompagni Ludovisi. He died in 2018, sparking a bitter inheritance dispute between his children from a previous marriage and Princess Rita. Unable to resolve it, a court ordered the house to be auctioned off, leaving half the profit to the sons and half to the Principessa. The estimated value? $533 million. It failed to attract any initial bids, so now it's up for auction starting at $320 million, still making it one of the most expensive homes in the world. For that price tag, you might expect a swimming pool or a tennis court. No, here you'll have to settle for a Renaissance masterpiece by none other than Caravaggio.
It's called Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto. It's the only ceiling painting he ever did.
It feels like a museum with all the history here, but this was more than that.
It was a home. Well, my heart will always be here.
Now, the princess is still deciding on the next chapter of her life, but as for the villa, well, she thinks it's going to take someone like an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos who can actually afford this treasure trove. And there's still some treasure that's lost inside. For instance, Galileo himself gazed upon the stars from this very rooftop, and she's convinced that 2 of his telescopes are still hiding in the ceiling. Chris Livesay, CBS News, Rome.
Pretty cool. I'd like to check it out. The property also includes several ancient Roman busts and even a sculpture by Michelangelo. Wow. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Soup's on, and I can't wait to share this one with you. It's got a secret ingredient that makes it, well, let's just say, super. Don't you go anywhere.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
It is cold and it is windy. There is no escaping that. So what we will do is spend a little time talking about why a radar can be just a tad bit deceiving. There we are with a live look over 7th and Rangeline, darkening up the clouds. Feels like we're waiting for maybe some flurries to break out. Certainly won't be anything worth noting and really shouldn't affect the evening commute. But I tell you what, down to 35 degrees. Look at that north gust. Last one recorded at Joplin Regional Airport, coming in at 32 miles per hour and a wind chill already down to 24. Earlier this morning, we saw temperatures that were hovering around 50 degrees. Now, really the highest that we see even down to the far south is 37. Now, I'm not going to say the cold front stalled out because it still will have that northward to southeasterly push, but it kind of did slow down just a little bit. Even if you look at the central portion there, Parsons and Pittsburgh sitting at 31 and 30 respectively, just slightly below the freezing mark. I really thought by this point in time we'd see our freezing be along the I-44 line. Not quite there as of yet, but we're going to be, because as we progress through the afternoon and evening hours, the wind is not going to slow down and the cold temperatures will keep on pushing in from the north. Here's a look at the wind chills and what we're experiencing right now. How about as low as 10 degrees is what it feels like in Lamar. Only 11 in Fort Scott, and even down to the south where temperatures are above freezing, the wind chills, they are below 20 degrees. Just not something we're able to escape. And comparatively speaking to where we were at this point in time on Tuesday, oh yeah, that 20 to 25 degree difference. Now, that being said, we're able to escape advisories, watches, and warnings minus one county. Benton County still hanging on to that winter weather advisory until 6 o'clock tonight. The white that you see to the east of that, right along the Missouri-Arkansas state line, that's a wind chill advisory. So that weather is going to get just a little bit worse and a little bit more treacherous as you move to the southeast. Now let's talk about the radar here. So as we remove the satellite coverage and the cloud cover, we see, we go, wait a second. Now normally, if we see that purple and that pink, that'd be some freezing rain. If we see that white and that blue, well, that'd be snow. And if we see that green, that'd be rain. Here's what I'm going to do. Well, this time of year, radars can be very, very finicky. And so what we'll do is we'll translate from what we see on the Skywatch Storm Tracker into boots on the ground. So there we are. Let's take Rolla, for example, right along I-44. And what we'll do is we'll utilize some live cameras, complements of the Missouri Department of Transportation. And so we'll just take I-44 right up here, where once again, according to the radar, we should be seeing some freezing rain, right? Well, that certainly doesn't look like it from that camera. And we've actually got two cameras to utilize right there. And granted, I'm going to tell you, there's some dark clouds up there, and that's exactly what that radar picks up. Picks up the moisture that's waiting to drop, but just because we see it, especially during the wintertime, doesn't mean it's necessarily hitting the ground. So that's just a quick explainer of why this year can be very, very tricky when it comes to that radar. Everything that we do see breaking up above us to the north, so even though Kansas City is getting a dusting right now, really won't affect us at all. And those watches and warnings once again spawn out to the east. Now look on the other side of the Mississippi through the Ohio River Valley. Goes to show you that they're going to bear the brunt of this thing after it not only sweeps through us, but then gathers up more southeastern moisture for tonight into tomorrow morning. Our afternoon planner going to dip us down to the 20s, and we'll just keep on going down to the point where we'll be, say single digits, if not negative numbers overnight. But afternoon's not over yet, and I still want to say we're going to get that freezing rain, especially for the southernmost portions of our counties. That's why Benton County in northwest Arkansas has that winter weather advisory. Now, Thursday morning, watch it freezing over, watch slick spots if you're out early, but more importantly, just make sure you are bundled up. Make sure the kids have multiple layers. Look at this as far as what we're seeing wind chill wise, say in between 6 and 8 o'clock. A whole bunch of negative numbers on the line right there. Tanya, the bright side about Thursday is it is going to be dry. And then after we get through Thursday night / Friday morning, back into the high 30s, 40s for the weekend.
Still some pretty cold lows, though, throughout the weekend, so just be prepared.
I don't have enough layers to be prepared right now.
We'll just look at the highs on Monday, and that'll make you feel better.
I am not going to lie to you. The first thing I did when I got home yesterday, a 50-degree afternoon yesterday, it was absolutely delightful. I said, where's the electric blanket?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't warm enough to open up the windows, that's for sure. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, First Sergeant Richard Banks in the U.S. Army. Soldier from Joplin joined the military serving in Asia from 1990 to 1991. He earned the National Defense Service Medal. To First Sergeant Richard Banks, we thank you, our four-state hero. There's a secret ingredient in today's recipe that might surprise you. Howard shows us how to make his French onion soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
This time of year, there's nothing better than sitting down to a bowl of something hot and comforting, like a steaming bowl of French onion soup topped with French bread and melty cheese. If you think this is something you can only get at a fancy restaurant, you're in for a surprise. Today we start by sauteing a good amount of onions in butter until they start to caramelize. Once they do, we add some beef broth, a bit of black pepper, and our secret ingredient, some apple cider. We let this simmer for a bit before adding some Parmesan cheese and a splash of red wine. While all the flavors come together, we'll melt some Swiss cheese on slices of French bread. Now, doesn't this look amazing? The whole thing from start to finish takes no time, yet it tastes like it cooked all day. From the moment you put your spoon into this, it's comfort in every bite. It's rich, beefy, and the onions are so sweet and tender. And the cheese topping, as they say in France, ooh la la. I suggest letting everyone try to guess what makes this taste so amazing before you tell them about our secret ingredient. To get the recipe for our to die for French onion soup, simply visit our website. I'm Howard of the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found an internationally fancy way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
Please remember, temps keep on falling down tonight, and also too, especially if you live south of I-44, watch out for some slick spots that could result in some freezing drizzle and then refreeze overnight, as we're going to wake up tomorrow morning with not only temperatures down around single digits, but negative wind chills.
What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, a recent study finds 53% of people surveyed say their bone, joint, and muscle issues have worsened since the COVID lockdowns. And many of these patients have put off surgery to fix their pain. And Health Watch, why waiting to have orthopedic surgery until a pandemic passes might be a bad idea. Plus, a teacher shortage hits several area school districts due to illness, which means an increased demand for substitutes. We're going to speak with the Columbus School District, where the superintendent is now teaching class to fill the gap. And the EPA files a lawsuit against some property owners who live in the Orinoco Superfund site. We're going to explain what that lawsuit is all about. Hope you join us for those stories, a lot more. It's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
All right. Thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.